Welcome, sentient beings from all known universes and beyond. It's time to activate your cranial downlinks and prepare to receive a raft of discussion on a cosmic ocean of science fiction and fantasy topics, interviews with local area genre devotees, and insightful prognostication by our soothsayers of science fiction, our forecasters of fantasy, and any other beings that happen to get caught in our gravity well. This is the Galactic Driftwood Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood Podcast. I'm Bill.
I'm Linda.
I'm Seth.
Well, we'll let Charles go, but I'm Chris.
You're muted, Charles.
There he is. Go ahead, Charles.
Say hi.
Oh, I'm Charles.
Yeah.
I don't Megan for some reason.
You know, these are the things that don't happen when we record live in person.
Right.
There isn't a person who's just sitting at the table who's like,
All the
Nice.
challenges of recording virtually.
All good.
Well,
We've managed to do pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have actually. So this episode, we're all kind of in the midst of watching different series, and of course, with spring and summer here, everybody's kind of busy doing all kinds of other things, living their lives. So we're not all caught up on all the different shows that are out there, but each of us is kind of watching different stuff. So what we thought we would try to do is talk a little bit about what shows each of us are watching, and try, without giving away too much, sell it to the folks that haven't been watching it yet, and hopefully sell you on watching it as well. So on that note, I think I will turn it over to Chris to kick us off, if you're ready, Chris, with Stranger Things. So Linda and I have only watched the first 2 episodes. I know Seth has not seen any of it yet. And Charles, have you watched any of Stranger Things?
Yeah, no, I've watched it up to the
Okay.
the last available
Gotcha.
episode, I believe. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we'll let you and Chris try to sell us on Stranger
That was
Things.
fun.
Yeah,
All right.
I agree. So I guess I'll start off by how I felt about it, and I thought this was good. I actually liked this season over probably the last season a little bit. I felt it flowed a little bit better, and that could be because the episodes are longer or what have you. But this, to kind of put a timeline on it, this season takes place roughly 6 months or so after the last one ends. It's been a while since we've seen them on the screen, obviously, but timeline wise, that's where this takes place. The kids haven't seen each other, for a summer or so, like half a year, and the team splits up at the end of the last season. You have a few that are taken and they go to California, and the rest kind of remain in Hawkins. And where I really felt they did a good job is they both kind of end up on their separate quest at some point through this season. They both have things they need to accomplish, whether that's saving a friend or solving a mystery. And it ends up coming out pretty well, I think. I've watched the whole season, and I thought it was a good mix of mystery, action, drama, friendship, romance, all those kind of things. So for some of it, it's one of the friends comes to visit in California, and it's really about the kids not seeing each other for a long time, some of them anyways. What's happened to their friendships? Have they stayed in touch? Or the romances that were starting to kindle still there? All that kind of stuff. And really, I think someone kind of steals the show, and you forget about some of that a little bit. And that is a character that's introduced as Eddie Munson. and he is the leader of the Hellfire Club, the local D&D group. And right away, when you're introduced to him, they give him a pretty broad stage to kind of flesh out who this guy is. And there's a scene where they're in the lunchroom, and he's kind of talking about what's coming up. They have their final session coming up. Okay, he's been building up all year for this, and
final D&D session, right?
Yeah. So the final campaign episode, if you will, and he goes on this epic monologue, if you will. Up to the point where he's standing on a lunchroom table. And what was kind of crazy is as they introduce this guy, if you watch him closely, he reminds you of another actor to the point where I had to go Google to make sure it wasn't this actor's son or something. And that's actually Robert Downey Jr. Think of like a Stark, and in the kind of the mannerisms and how he talks. Eddie Munson, the guy who plays him, is really steals the show from that aspect. He's kind of the comedy relief, but he's also a centerpiece in this season. There's a theme of a witch hunt that goes on as well, in terms of some of the crazy things that start happening in Hawkins again, right? People, they've brushed it off, and we've had a tragedy here, but we're going to move forward. We're going to press on until some tragic things start to happen. Kids start dying essentially in Hawkins, unexplained deaths. And people always grasp for some type of reality to pin that to. And somehow, one or another, I won't spoil it, but they pin it on Eddie Munson. And so he, in this series, is kind of on the run for his life. And it's a mystery of solving who's killing the kids. And how do we, keep the upside down secret and all the other mysteries of things that are happening in Hawkins. And there's also, I guess, technically a third quest that's going on, which is Hopper. What's going on with Hopper in Russia? So they also answer a little bit of that with some cool spy things there. People with some surprise physical martial arts abilities is what I'll say. I won't spoil that. And some other cool things. So it was really enjoyable. Kept me engaged. Not too many lull points of just kind of filling in gaps there for the story or anything. For me, it was a 10 out of 10. I actually enjoyed it better than the last season. If anything, if you felt last season was a little bit of a departure for you, give season 4 a shot is kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, and I would maybe add to that, having just seen the first 2 episodes, I liked seeing 11 in school, where she's kind of the subject of being bullied.
Yep.
Right. And she doesn't have her powers to be able to defend herself. So she's learning how
to be fair, not that she should be using her powers to defend herself.
Right. Exactly. True. Right. But yeah, it's kind of interesting to see her come to terms with that and try to accept that. And so that was interesting in the first couple episodes. What do you think of the series, Charles?
Yeah, no, I like that they're taking the time for character development. That's been that was kind of fun watching this. The other just kind of the fun element. They have a little bit about the satanic scare with the dungeon.
Yes, right. Which I thought was interesting. Right.
Yeah,
bring that in.
It was well. Those of us who lived through that while playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, you want to for the listeners that may not be. Yeah, for listeners that may not be familiar with that, Charles, do you want to explain?
Yeah, that's a great point that should be brought up. Yeah.
Well, they brought up well because when I was, that would have been middle school for me. There were a lot of articles in the
time point of this is.
Yeah, a lot of articles in the paper and stuff thought that Dungeons and Dragons was your gateway to Satanism. And people were scared of that.
And this would have been back in the 70s?
Well, for me, it was the 80s. Early 80s.
Yeah, and this takes place in 86. So it was Netflix was very time appropriate.
Actually, 86, that would have been right on the money. That would have been right on the money when I was playing.
Okay.
So the Satanic Panic is something I like to read up and study on, because I remember that from my childhood, where D&D was villainized as part of it, and like the story behind how like that started is a little bit crazy.
Go into that a little bit, Seth.
Yeah.
Because
I don't remember what's real and what's not with the stories behind it. Because there were stories. I remember the stories.
Right.
But I've never bothered to go back and verify, at least from the Dungeons and Dragons element. My hometown, my hometown, where I grew up in Olympia, Washington, and it went from that to there was a real satanic panic. Just they thought the sheriff's office was satanic. They thought because there was this whole there would be this soap opera of Satanist events, and all of which turned out to be false in my hometown that were in the paper. And so it was kind of fun watching this and going, okay, I do remember that, and adults acting weird.
It sounds sort of like the current. It sounds sort of like the current panic we have with rumors of furries using litter boxes in schools.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is actually very reminiscent of QAnon, where so the way things started kind of with the satanic panic and people just being worried about Satanists in general, and there were several stories about local law enforcement finding it was coming. People were. It was the beginning of kind of the found memories thing, where under hypnosis you could kind of make people say anything.
Oh my God.
And so there was a combination of these false memories and some psychologists kind of leading people into like, yeah, I was definitely abducted by a cult and I was their high priestess. And then they tried to sacrifice me, but now I found God and am definitely all good again. And I'm telling my story and selling this book for $1 million.
Right.
Well, one of the big things with that element of it, because some of that, this is what the sheriff's department, that was my hometown. They managed to get a sheriff whose daughters had that dream therapy and said they'd been satanically abused.
Oh my God.
And it turned out that his personality was just the type that if you asked him to confess to something, he confessed to it. And so he confessed to all sorts of satanic stuff. There's a huge the New Yorker has it's a big like 20-page article on what happened. It's pretty interesting because they had maps of all the people involved, and it looked like the maps look like A Beautiful Mind, almost like all the people in town that were involved. And then it turned out none of it happened.
Yeah.
And so on that note, that you start to see that kind of story unfold in Stranger Things, right? Mm-hmm. Where these unexplained deaths must be linked to Eddie Munson. And therefore, everyone else that's part of the club, the gang that we know, must also be somehow involved. And it explodes into, at one point, a county-wide manhunt for these people, to the point where they don't even care what the sheriff's office is even doing. They're like, "You're not doing your job. We'll find these people with our pitchforks ourselves." Right. So I thought it was pretty interesting. It's timely. I have not read or heard too much on the satanic panic type stuff, but clearly it's a theme in this. They do a really good job of kind of showing how that comes to fruition. Like I said, when people can't find a reason to explain something, they kind of make up their own reality.
Sure.
Yeah. And I mean, at least in Hawkins, it seems that there were kids disappearing.
Yeah. But what was weird was it wasn't the first time.
Yeah.
So how
Right.
I guess at that point though you know you can only take so much tragedy before you start to be like it's got to be Satan, it's got to be you
Right.
know the
Right.
devil's come for us.
At least in this one instance, they aren't far off.
Yeah, that's true.
In their
But-
defense,
No.
it wasn't Dungeons and Dragons, but there is a Demogorgon.
Speaking of
Right.
Dungeons and Dragons, there's an epic correlation in this during this final campaign that I spoke about earlier, where gameplay is played out during the campaign when they get together for a final session and things that are going on in reality.
So I remember just from my
It was pretty
childhood
epic.
in school.
What's that?
Charles froze up.
Froze.
He's still kind of there.
He's still kind of there.
These technical difficulties.
Are you back with us, Charles, or are you still frozen?
I think he's
now
frozen.
again.
All
I
right.
haven't seen him move in a couple seconds.
He's dead, Jim.
Oh, there he's back. I think.
Nope. He's
Nope.
out.
Now he's gone.
Out for good.
So as I was saying before, Charles glitched out. He's now in the upside down. We'll have to go rescue him.
I'm not in adventuring shape, Chris.
It's an adventure. That's what I can say about that season. It's an adventure of all different types, and they do a good job of even tying a real time kind of campaign thing into events going on elsewhere, and they kind of make this epic build up to, you gotta roll well. And if you don't roll something like a crit, you're gonna have a bad time. And
Right.
they kind of build up this suspense momentum for it. It's pretty epic. So
Yeah.
again, I enjoyed it. I really did.
Yeah. Based on the first 2 episodes, I really want to watch more. We've just been so busy with life that we
And like I said, they're long. They're not 30 or 45
Yeah,
minutes.
no.
Each one's well over an hour, and
Right.
we only got the first part. So
Yeah.
you get through a few episodes. I think Bill, you mentioned we get the rest in July, maybe.
Yes, right.
So there's when you get to the end, it's as much of a cliffhanger as you'd want, but it's also kind of fulfilling at the same time.
Right.
So pretty
Yeah.
excited
All right.
about that.
Yeah. Cool.
I guess the other thing I've been watching that some of us have been watching too is Obi-Wan.
Oh yeah. Go
And I have
into
nothing
that.
but kind of rants for that. I think they've only released 3 episodes.
Yeah.
And I just got caught up in the last 2 this week. And I have issues on consistency with Jedi powers.
Oh, okay.
And some things are made way, way worse than they need to be. And also, the Jedi were really portrayed as kind of weaklings in this. So Obi-Wan takes place during basically the Jedi eradication. And
So it's kind of right after the 3rd prequel movie, right?
Right.
In between the 3rd prequel movie and episode 4,
So
which was the original.
Yeah,
Star
you're
Wars.
getting to the point where the Jedi are being a little bit scarce to find by the Order, and ultimately Obi-Wan has, at this point, basically walked away, and he's just Ben now, right? And he's gonna keep an eye on Luke from a distance, and that is what it is, and even to an extent where another Jedi in this series finds him and is like, hey, what are we going to do? And he's like, dude, bury your lightsaber and just move on with your life. So we already see, cranky Ben. We wonder where Luke gets it from. There you go.
Right.
But one of the issues that I had is there's a scene where you see one of the initial attacks from the Empire and attacking all the Jedi at this, I forget exactly where it was taking place, but you start to see the fall of the Jedi. And in that scene, I was kind of irritated because you could have 2 or 3 of these like stormtroopers taking down like 2 Jedi. And the whole time I'm like, you guys are supposed to be way more powerful and in tune with the Force than that. And how can you be? They were taken down, in my opinion, way too easily.
Just 3 stormtroopers, and we know that stormtroopers can barely hit the broadside of a barn.
So how are they? So how are they taking down Jedi? And,
right.
Let alone 2 that are fighting back to back? You shouldn't be able to touch them.
Right.
So there was a lot of weird instances like that where what's going on with that? Why aren't they utilizing the Force? And I try to come up with some theories to kind of make it up in my head myself, or but I couldn't really reach it. Right. To me, I just felt like, okay, is it true then that really the only capable Jedi are like Ben and Yoda and Mace Windu, and everyone else is just worthless?
Right.
Like because and why I say that is because you have people with natural skill that seem to be able to survive more than that. For everyone wanting to kind of bow their heads and say we must find a Jedi, they're going to save us from the Empire. Like, okay, the Empire just smoked all of them with their stormtroopers that can't hit jack.
Right.
And you expect 1 or 2 to kind of save the galaxy, and that's the portrayal I got, and that frustrated me because there were scenes or situations that would find themselves in where the Force would solve that problem,
right?
And I don't know if it's like maybe I'm missing something and they shouldn't be relying on it so much or whatever, but I'm like, okay, so use the Force or die. Why is that your option? Of just use the Force. If you can push a stormtrooper off an edge of a cliff, do that.
Yeah.
Do
you see
you're just walking down the street and see a stormtrooper standing up at the top of the building, and you just push him off and just like keep on walking.
Right. What were you gonna say, Bill?
Do you see any Sith in the first 3 episodes?
You see so in this you have I need to pull up her name. Hold on. Where did she go? Holy crap, I lost my bookmark. Not true Sith. I don't know if they're technically called Sith. There's a band of 3 that are hunting down Obi-Wan, and one in particular is like really pissed off. It's the black girl with the saber, Moses Ingram. But I don't know if she's considered. I don't think she's really considered a Sith. Maybe she is.
I think technically they're kind of like disciples of Darth Vader or something.
Yeah, but I just wasn't sure if they're considered a Sith. But they travel in like a batch of 3. There's 3 of them that are kind of they're the elite hunters of the Jedi, basically.
Okay.
So they're out to really kind of sniff out the Jedi on these different planets, and they eventually end up on the same planet that Obi-Wan is. So
do they have lightsabers as well?
Yes, and they can use the Force. One of them particularly dangerously so.
Well, see, I thought part of the first. I think I only watched the first episode, but they were trying to hide from using the Force. I thought for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So that might have been part of the problem. I'm not.
Well, Obi-Wan, Obi-Wan
get away that Luke Skywalker's on that planet. He's trying to keep him hidden.
Right, and the best way to keep him hidden is to also not use the Force himself as a So Ben in this scenario of my rant before, he gets a pass because he's been living like a nomad out here. He's not been using the Force or anything. He's basically find a job and carry on. And so him, I get it because he hasn't used it for so long. There's actually a scene where somebody falls off a roof and he has to catch them. And he ends up having to use the Force, but you could tell it's been a while. It was not easy for him. And even though he ended up using the Force, up to that point, he had restrained from doing it, even though he's come under attack by a bunch of people with guns and whatnot. He refrains from using it. So much so that he takes a few blows to the face. Okay. Like I'm like, Ben, you're making life hard here. Okay.
I could have liked it.
Well, is he doing that to prevent someone from obviously identifying him as an ex-Jedi?
I don't think so at this point because he doesn't change. Okay. Yes and no. Okay. unless the stormtroopers are as dumb as maybe in reality are, Ben still dresses like a Jedi. Okay.
Huh.
Like if all the Jedi dress the same, he runs around trying to pretend he's not a Jedi, but he still dresses like one.
That's a giveaway.
So that blew my mind that Ben wouldn't adopt some kind of disguise, different types of clothing or whatever.
Right.
Even when he ultimately has to go off planet at some point in the show, and he still wears a lightsaber at his side. Okay, and
Well, that's a dead giveaway.
Right, and I mean, granted, it's under their cloak, but I mean, a gust of wind could come by and ta-da! So, I'm frustrated with not with the storyline. I think this is good. I like the production quality. I still enjoyed the experience, but again, my issue is with the consistency of, they're muddying the waters a little bit of how great is a Jedi. The only thing that seems special about them is they're wielding a laser sword, but that was it.
Huh.
The Mandalorian was better with the laser sword than they are apparently, and he can barely lift the darn thing.
Right, that's crazy.
So I have a possible explanation for you, Chris.
Please.
Well, when Order 66 was given, all of the Jedi who are proficient in combat and using the Force under combat situations, all their best people were out fighting with the clone troopers.
And I think they do cover some of that in one of the movies, one of the earlier movies, I think. But
who wasn't there? The accountants, the lawyers, the janitors. All the people who they were like, you know what? Maybe we don't send you out to fight against the robots. You've got a good job here, Dennis. You're really good at keeping the books balance. This is where your Force powers shine in balancing the expense accounts.
I guess I would rebuke that and say, okay, well, the Jedi Council's not doing a good job of bringing up their talent and training them well, I guess, at this point. Because, again, I felt like for them not to be able to take on what they were attacked by. I mean, if an army shows up, that's one thing. But we're talking like, not a handful, but 30 stormtroopers storming a building with like 10 Jedi should have never had a chance.
Right.
Should have had zero chance. And the other thing was one of the scenes. Okay, I actually paused and rewound it, thinking I missed something. When this scene comes in earlier on in the series, one of the Jedi is out training with a bunch of kids on a platform, and is surprised when a stormtrooper comes to the door and starts firing at them. And my thing with that was, we've seen where Jedi can sense presence or when things are going bad around them. So you're telling me these people went all the way through this compound up to that door, and you had no idea they were a bunch of Deadeye dying around you?
Deadeye.
Like, okay, these are things that normally I don't nitpick about, but it was just so obvious. It seemed so weak. I wanted to throw a chair.
Let me throw something at you though, because see, I'm the other way around. I like the idea of the Force remaining as something that's iffy, especially to the other people around, because that originally, kind of my favorite, Han Solo, right?
Yeah.
Let me just read, because I just looked it up because I wanted to get it right. The Han Solo quote from Star Wars, right? He goes, "Kid, I've flown from one side of this galaxy to the other. I've seen a lot of strange stuff, but I've never seen anything to make me believe that there's one all-powerful force controlling everything. There's no mystical energy field that controls my destiny." Right? And that's how it started, with it being kind of, even though you saw Luke Skywalker, when they're being trained, and being able to fight off laser beams from little robot balls while blindfolded and stuff. It still wasn't enough to convince Han Solo at the time that there was even such a thing.
Right.
To him, it was more pure luck, or trained or
and
something.
So I kind of like I preferred that Star Wars where you had people believing in this, the Jedi, but whether or not it was real was still questionable.
Mhm.
Well, but that was also, I would say, a timeline thing. At that point, when Luke was starting to get trained,
Yeah.
it hadn't been seen for such a long time. We're
Right.
exiting a realm where it was common, where the Jedi were very, I won't say popular, but they were well known and not a normal thing. But we see Luke in the future, when go back to the Mandalorian, when Luke first shows up on that ship and just crushes those androids on his way in, just makes them seem like nothing. And that's where I get, well, my only theory is that there are only very few Jedi where the Force is that powerful, and everyone else is just kind of, they seem high and mighty, but realistically, maybe
average Joes.
they're just average. Well, maybe a little higher than average Joes, but that's it, right? They're no better than a highly skilled Mandalorian, right?
Gotcha.
So there is actually a little bit of precedent for different Jedi not being as combat capable as other Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
Like there were at least in the old extended universe, there were Jedi who were primarily healers, who none of their Force abilities lined up with telekinesis or mind control, or were particularly skilled at lightsabers, but they could all but raise the dead. One of my favorite Jedi, Corran Horn, didn't have any telekinesis at all. He was really kind of weak there, but his character was that of a detective.
Okay.
So his Force abilities aided him in being a detective, but if a large group of soldiers came on him, he was actually kind of betting on getting shot a couple times, because then he could absorb that power like Darth Vader did the one time, like blocking a laser blaster shot with his hand. He could absorb that power and use it to temporarily use some telekinesis. But in the situation where there's like 30 stormtroopers coming and they're all going to be shooting at him, Corn would have been hosed.
and that's
fair
fair
with laser fire.
Yeah, and that's fair. It's just we've been painted this universe where on the big screen anyways, where Jedi are supposed to be a little bit more adept than what they're portrayed to be. And I don't need to harp on it anymore, but that's just been my biggest hang up with the show, is because it seems to be a reoccurring issue where you start to think, well, couldn't they just use the Force to around the issue? Otherwise, it's been really good.
I watched out of the program when I was 5, but they wouldn't send me back to my parents. They just gave me a laser sword and told me to watch the books.
Yes, I will add, we get to see Darth Vader in this.
Oh, nice.
And Darth Vader is badass.
Badder ass than normal?
In the form of
that
Anakin,
in terms of violence. Yeah. So he comes out. He is not messing around. He's got things to do.
That's one of the things I really like about these new these look backs at unexplored pieces of the history, like Rogue One, when we see Darth Vader, like that scene at the end where he's just mowing through soldiers.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So and to give you some context, okay, we get to see Vader snapping necks. Okay, I'm not kidding.
Oh,
he is not playing around.
Wow.
Right. Yeah, I mean Darth Vader.
Talk?
Yes.
Yeah, because
Does
they
he
said
sound like the Darth Vader from the later
He came back. It's the same guy.
James Earl Jones.
James Earl Jones is voicing this.
Oh,
nice. They did not hold any expense. They did a really good job with Vader. If I was happy about anything out of Obi-Wan, it was actually what they did with Vader.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that now.
For a lot of the ever since Star Wars came out, like A New Hope, we didn't really get to see Vader ever kind of living up to the legend that the reputation that he has in the first
myth,
three,
the legend
in 4, 5, and 6. Like they didn't have the ability to really show him being as scary as he is, and I love.
And to Seth's point, scary is a key word. Ben, you physically see Ben scared.
Really?
Okay. Because he's got the whole guilt thing of what happened, right?
Yeah.
But when you get to the point where Vader shows up and he's within the same vicinity, I mean, you get this heart racing kind of feeling from Ben, and to that extent, it's like, his fear is betraying him, which you've heard Yoda talk about in his famous old quote of what leads to what leads to. I forget it at the moment, but you get to see a scary Vader, and that touches with Ben hardcore.
Huh. Interesting.
Cool.
All right.
So, like I said, I have issues if I nitpick Obi-Wan, I have some serious issues with the Force, but I am absolutely enjoying it. I'm gonna finish the season.
I want to see it now.
Yeah.
You did your job. I want to see it.
We're about 36 minutes in. Maybe we have time for Charles to quick talk about The Boys, and then we should probably.
I only watched a little bit of the first episode, but
yeah. So there was something.
I will say
something horrified you.
Oh boy, just be ready. Just be ready for.
Just be ready.
One of the don't have your kids present. I mean, I'm so
excited.
And I'm hesitant. I don't want to give the scene away, but it was just, I've got to say,
shocking,
terrifying, nightmare. It's the worst,
nightmare-inducing,
the worst.
And you watched it right as you were going to bed?
I was going to go to. I watched part of it last night, and I was about to go out, and that scene came on. I couldn't get to my controller to turn it fast enough.
Wow.
It's bad.
Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, he only just started it.
Right away, you're going to be, this is something.
And I can say, just on that alone, Charles, you've sold me on wanting to see it.
Right?
You've got to watch it, but you have to because it's so. But yeah,
it's disturbing.
Now I really want to watch it.
Me too.
And I really want to watch it with our friend Zach, who is the most squeamish person ever when we watch shows. Somebody gets a paper cut and he about passes out. So
that's kind of what
that'll be entertaining. Like, well, Bill, maybe you should schedule a veranda night or something.
Yeah, there you go.
Where the boys kick off.
There we go.
Boys kick off.
I like it. All right, we'll do that.
I'm looking forward to more of The Boys.
Yeah. Maybe we can get together next weekend or something.
I can't think. The main character, the good guy, main character.
The good okay. Good guys are kind of.
I forgot his name.
The boys of the.
Do you mean Billy Butcher?
Billy Butcher.
Not Billy. No,
or Billy. Huey.
Huey.
Yeah, Huey.
Yeah.
The actual good guy, the one good guy. Well, I guess Mother's Milk is also pretty good.
Yeah, Huey's doing. It opens with him doing pretty good in life. He's gotten on with the sort of the anti-superhero feds, right? And he's a big shot, and he still has his girlfriend, and he does photo ops, and it's sort of an interesting opening. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the series.
Awesome.
Cool. All right. Well, you sold us. All right. Well, I think we'll go ahead and end it there. We're coming up on 40 minutes into the show, so we'll let it end it there, and we'll pick up on some more stuff next time. See if we can sell the audience on some of the other interesting shows that are coming on right now. So, anyway, thank you all for tuning in. We will catch you next time. Till then, live long and prosper, as my friend Mr. Spock likes to say.
Your friend?
Well, I consider him a friend. He's on my TV all the time. See y'all.
All right.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood Podcast. For more information and past episodes, please visit our website at galacticdriftwood.space or subscribe to us on YouTube. And now, please deactivate your cranial downlinks, collect your towels, and be sure to watch your step as you exit our gravity well.